Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys at Magic. This is Hunter and Steven. Say what up, Steven.
Hey, what's up, Steven?
We are back. We are doing a $100 upgrade to the Eternal Might Precon deck. That is right. That is the new Precon deck from Aether Drift. Only two of them. You've already seen the other one, I hope. Go to the channel, check that one out. But this, like I said, is Eternal Might. So it's kind of a zombie theme, right, Steven?
Yeah, it's quite mighty.
Quite mighty. So, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because you don't want to miss out on the content. We got the $300 upgrades coming soon. Don't want to miss that. Also, we are talking about Temmet, right?
Yeah, Temmet. Temmet is the face commander of this deck.
All right, perfect. If you guys wanted to see Hashaton, we always do the backup commanders over on our Patreon. If you guys wanted to see that deck and that build, check the link in the description for our Patreon account. You don't want to miss those $100 and $300 versions of those decks. But, Steven, Temmet, talk to me about this commander.
Yeah, so Temmet is really fun. So this is zombies, but Esper, which is super cool. I don't feel like you normally see, I don't think I've ever seen like a Demired zombie style deck with white. So this was a really cool, different way to build it. So Temmet is two, a white, a blue, and a black. It's a 4/4 legendary creature zombie wizard. It has vigilance and menace, which is insanely awesome. And then it says whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card. And then it also says whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So this basically helps you do the thing. It's a zombie itself. It'll pump itself, which is really cool. And it helps you rifle through your deck. And then there's also tons of ways to get your zombies that you pitch into the graveyard, if you do pitch them, in back onto the battlefield or back into your hand. So this deck was really, really fun right out of the box.
That's very cool. I think Temmet's pretty powerful. I mean, just the fact that you're pumping the zombies for every card you draw is nuts. And then I love the fact that it's whenever you attack, not necessarily this needs to attack. So card draw wins games.
Yeah, it is very, very solid. I will say when goldfishing this deck, Temmet's fun to swing with as well. It comes in as a 4/4, which is really strong, and it's automatically a 5/5 as soon as you attack with it. So it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, it is definitely really good. But all right, Steven, that is awesome. I can't wait to see what you did with this deck. So let's go ahead and kick it off with these additions, starting with, it looks like you threw in some creatures first.
Yep, so I did throw in some creatures. I kind of wanted to make this deck as almost kind of like go wide to a certain extent. When I saw Temmet, I just saw a bunch of card draw and just pummeling your opponents into the ground with combat damage. So when I think combat damage, I think I kind of want my things to basically kill whatever they might be swinging at. So Death Baron was one of the first things I threw in almost immediately. It is 1 and 2 black for a 2/2 creature zombie wizard. It says skeleton creatures you control and other zombie creatures you control get +1/+1 and have death touch. Doesn't care if they're tokens or not. They got death touch. So super, super solid ad. I love this card with all my heart.
Yeah, you're talking to the guy that loves dealing combat damage. I'm excited. I love this first
Yeah.
edition.
Well, hey, you're also the guy that loves +1/+1 counters. So Diagraph Colossus is up next. It's 2 and a black for a 2/2 creature zombie giant. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each zombie card in your graveyard. So obviously we're putting cards into our graveyard. Some of those could be zombies. The fun part though is whenever you cast a zombie spell, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. So could come in with a bunch of +1/+1 counters, and then also as you just continue to play the game, you are making a giant board state. And then one of our other last zombie lords we can kind of talk about. So Undead War Chief is 2 and 2 black. It's a 1/1, but don't let it fool you. It's a creature zombie. Zombie spells you cast cost one less to cast, so helping us get those bad boys out a little bit quicker. And then also zombie creatures you control get +2/+1. This deck has a bunch of lords already, but I think Undead War Chief is just a phenomenal addition to any zombie deck, especially if you're doing something like this.
Yeah, it's definitely a must-have in a zombie deck. Just it's add it. Undead War Chief should have been in the precon.
Yep, I completely agree. They did add a bunch of cards in this precon that I did pick up this precon, and I'm glad I will be throwing a couple of them into my Wilhut deck.
Oh, cool. Speaking of Wilhelt, it looks like you have two more creatures. What do you got here?
I do. I do have two more creatures, and we'll talk about Wilhut immediately. I threw Wilhut the Rock Cleaver in. Doesn't really necessarily help with the game plan when it comes to our commander and drawing cards because obviously will health is at end step. But let's talk about will health obviously. So two, a blue and a black for a 3/3 legendary creature zombie warrior. Whenever a zombie you control dies, if it didn't have decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with decayed. And then at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie if you do draw a card. Obviously, we're making a ton of zombies with this deck, whether they're decayed or just regular 2/2 zombies. So just kind of rifling through the deck, trying to find some other win cons we could possibly pump out. I think Wilhelt was a great addition to this deck.
Yeah, cool. Will help to. It's a powerhouse on its own. It's a zombie god, so just throw it in here too.
Yep, 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 yep. And then the last creature I added is Graveborn Muse. I love all the muses. I didn't really know about Graveborn Muse. I'll be honest with you. All we ever hear about is Seedborn Muse. I think that's the only card that people care about. But in this deck in particular, great card. So 2 and 2 black for a 3/3 creature zombie spirit. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of zombies you control. So obviously we are losing a little bit of life, but if we have a lot of zombies on the field, somebody's going to get hurt very badly.
Well, I love all those creature additions. Those are very, very cool. Love zombies here. So let's move into the sorcery department. I'm seeing two.
Yep, so two sorceries, like you said. So Living Death is one of them. It is 3 and 2 black. It says each player exiles all creature cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all creature he or she controls, then puts all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. I feel like Living Death is one of those cards where you kind of do it when you have no board state, because obviously you probably don't want to get rid of too much on your side. This also could greatly probably help your opponents, but there are ways to exile graveyards in this deck, so that's really nice. But yeah, Living Death, bring all your stuff back, and there's tons of ETBs with these cards. I love it.
Yeah, that's a good card. I also see another good card here.
Yeah, so another good card, Supreme Verdict, 1, 2 white, and a blue. It can't be countered. Destroy all creatures. Simple, to the point. I love the fact that it can't be countered. There are some board wipes in this deck. I wasn't a fan of a couple of them. I did remove one. We'll get into that a little bit later. But this is just a amazing board wipe. So immediately went into the deck, especially since we have white.
Yeah, I was gonna say I completely forgot about the white aspect of this deck, and I was like, Supreme Verdict in a zombie deck? That's a weird thing to say, but here we are. I love it.
Yep, here we are.
All right, moving on to the instant department. What do we got?
Yeah, so we have Anguish. I'm making it as 1, a white, and a black. Pretty simple instant here. Exile target non-land permanent. You lose 3 life. Just good spot removal.
Yeah, spot
Really,
removal
really
is
good.
important.
Yep. And then moving on to the 4 cards I wanted to talk about. So I love combat tricks to a certain extent. So these cards were really cool because let's say you're in a tight spot, or let's say you just want to swing with some low creatures and make your opponent think about blocking just to get rid of your stuff. Let's trick them. Let's get them to basically hate their lives. So this first one is Brainstorm, 1 blue, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. Insane card for this deck. You're putting 3 triggers of your commander on, and it's insane. Your commander essentially becomes a 7/7. It's great just with this one card. And now these other ones, we're kind of sacking some cards, but like I said earlier in the video, we are basically building quite a large board state, hopefully. So these cards are fantastic in this deck. Corrupted Conviction, I don't feel like anyone's ever really talked about too much, but it is 1 black, instant speed. As additional costs, you sack a creature, but you draw 2 cards. So again, putting those triggers on the stack. Deadly Dispute, one of my favorite cards in Magic. So essentially same kind of situation, but you can sack an artifact or creature here. You draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. So 2 triggers on that stack. And then lastly, we do have Village Rites, 1 black, classic card here. Sack a creature, draw 2 cards. Boom. We have a win here.
Yeah, so these last 4 cards, let me tell you, I love combat tricks as much as the next person, but I love the fact that your combat trick is also card draw, and that is just bonkers. So
yeah, because essentially with Temmet, once you go into combat and you're swinging, you already get to draw a card and discard a card. So that's one. So that's one trigger right there. And then if you just play any of these, let's say minus the Brainstorm, you're drawing 2 cards. That's 3 triggers, and it gets insane. That's +3. This deck is pretty awesome.
This deck is awesome. All right, that looks like it's it for the non-permanent spells. Let's move back into the permanent type. We have enchantments.
So first up, Black Market Connections could not add this card to the deck. I don't know why it wasn't in the Precon. Maybe it's because they printed it off kind of earlier last year, or I guess later in the last year. But 2 and a black at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, choose one or more. You can lose a life, create a treasure token, lose 2 life, draw a card, or you can pay 3 life, create a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token with changeling. So they are zombies, which is really cool. Uh, I love this card. It should go into pretty much every deck that runs black, where you're wanting to get a advantage with treasures, drawing cards, or just making a larger board state.
Full send. Lose 6 life. Come on, do it.
I mean, take 6, feel
Great.
great.
Yeah. Always.
Next up, we have Kindred Discovery. This is 3 and 2 blue for an enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Shocker, we're choosing zombie. Whenever creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. So, kind of refilling our hand. Also, basically, when we cast these zombies on our pre-combat main, we can go ahead and just add some triggers to the stack and just make our big boys bigger.
Yeah, who would have thought? Kindred Discovery is a fantastic Kindred card.
Yeah. Here's a fun one you might not have known about, Hunter. So this is military intelligence. This is 1 and a blue for an enchantment. This is whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, draw a card. We're a combat style themed deck. We want to be swinging with multiple things. We're already getting the trigger from attacking with Temmet, so hopefully we get another trigger. So I mean, for a cheap enchantment, this is pretty solid.
Yeah, why not? Just throw it in.
Yep. And obviously, like I said, we want a whiteboard state. So you had to throw in Necroduality. 3 and a blue. Whenever non-token zombie you control enters, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Even if we're putting a legendary creature on the stack, if it has a cool ETB, we get 2 of those ETBs. Solid include.
Yeah, Necroduality is pretty much a staple in zombie decks, as long as you're running blue. So I'm not shocked it's here as well.
Yep.
And finally, Steven, looks like you touched the mana base a little bit. What lands are you adding to make this mana base better?
Yep, so just added just like a smidge of lands here. So first one I'll talk about is Rafine's Tower. This is just the tri-land for our colors. It is white, blue, black, and enters the battlefield tapped. But the cool thing about this card is it does have cycling. So if we're in a pinch, we draw this in the late game. We get to pay those 3, discard, draw a card. We got a trigger on the stack, baby.
Of course.
And then the other 3 cards just added all the bond lands. So Morphic Pool, Sea of Clouds, Vault of Champions, they all tap for their respective colors. Morphic Pool is a blue and a black. Sea of Clouds is a white and a blue. And then Vault of Champions is a white and a black.
All right. I love all of the additions. Is that it? Is that the complete adds for this deck?
Those are all the additions, my friend.
Cool. Well, you added a bunch of cards, and now we got to remove some cards to make room for those cards. Talk to me. What are we removing out of this deck?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and talk about the big, the bad, Liliana. Liliana Death's Majesty, it's a Planeswalker. It's 5 mana, so 3 and 2 black. For a Planeswalker that comes with loyalty of 5, you can +1, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and then you mill 2 cards. You could also -3 it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a black zombie in addition to its other types. And then -7, destroy all non-zombie creatures. The -7 means nothing to me here. I will say that creating a black zombie creature token and then milling 2 cards, if we were more recursion, I'd probably think about it. But when I see this card, I just see 5 mana, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And I just didn't really care for that. So I went ahead and just pitched it.
Yeah, Lily might be the queen of zombies, but not in this deck.
Nope, not in my decks.
Speaking of creatures, let's go ahead and move on to that department. What creatures are we taking out?
So the first creature I'm removing is Angel of Sanctions. It's 3 and 2 white, and then whenever it enters, you may exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until Angel of Sanctions leaves the battlefield. It also has Embalm for 5 and a white, which basically you pay 5 and a white, exile it from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a white zombie angel with no mana cost, blah, blah, blah. I didn't like this card. This card's not great, in my opinion. I understand why they threw it, because it kind of makes a zombie, but it's not a good card. For 5 mana, exile target non-land permanent. There's just better ways to do it cheaper. And I did not need a 5 mana 3/4 in my deck.
Yeah, 5 mana gets rid of something you could do better.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, this is Champion of Wits. It's 2 and a blue for a 2/1 creature, Snake Wizard. Whenever it enters, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. It also has Eternalize for 5 and 2 blue. Eternalize, almost kind of like the same thing as Embalm, but basically you pay 7, which is insane to me. Exile this card from your graveyard, create a token copy of it, except it's a 4/4. So you can pay 3, draw 2, or you can pay 7 and draw 4.
Oh.
Uh, there are so many other ways to draw cards in this deck that I didn't really need this in the deck whatsoever.
Yeah, Steven, you added so much card draw into the deck. I don't think you need this at all anymore.
Yeah, it's not even a zombie, and I understand they put Maskwood Nexus in this deck, which, spoiler, just wait a second. I just didn't really need it. It's not going to be recurred. It's not really a zombie. I kind of wanted to stick to the zombie theme. So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's move on to a zombie I did get rid of. Eternal Skylord. This is 4 in a blue. It's a 3/3 creature zombie wizard. Whenever it enters, amass zombies 2. And then zombie tokens you control have flying. So, that's cool.
Yeah, it's 5 mana.
Yeah, 5 mana for your zombie tokens to have flying. Not even your regular ones don't. So essentially, you're paying 5 mana to make a zombie army because that's what you're doing when you amass,
Hmm.
and then that's pretty much it. So I didn't really. There's so many other things I could do in this deck for 5 mana that this is not to be. This did not need to be in it. Next up, Priest of the Crossing. Now there are 2 new priest cards that were really cool. This one I did not find cool at all. So this is 3 and a white for a 3/3 creature zombie bird cleric, which is a cool creature type if you ask me. But it does have flying. At the beginning of each end step, put it X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of creatures that died under your control this turn. Unless we're playing a board wipe or just like sacking one thing, paying 4 mana to get 1 +1/+1 counter, it didn't really make sense, especially when we care about card draw and we rather just draw our cards to give those extra triggers on the stack that way.
Yeah, these cards are cool in those self-sacrifice type decks. Um, you're not trying to do that too much. Granted, you did throw in a couple of effects that sack a creature to draw cards, but even then, it's on end step, and honestly, you're probably having those tapped anyways, so they
Yeah.
don't get the block.
Yeah. And then the last card I removed, which to me is the most pointless card in the deck, is Timeless Dragon. So it's 3 and 2 white for a 5/5 creature dragon with flying. I understand why they put it in the deck. It's got plane cycling too to help you find those planes, but with the mana curve we have, like 22% of the deck is white, so didn't really need to help find planes cards, I think, in my opinion. Knock on wood, it's probably going to bite me in the butt when we do our battles, but it also has Eternalize for 4, so if you pitch it, technically this card's cheaper. But again, it just didn't make sense, and I didn't really care for it.
Okay, I get it. I get why it's gone. But let's go ahead and move on to those non-permanent spells. We'll start with the sorcery department. I'm saying 2 sorceries very similarly with the Aftermath ability.
Yeah, so I went ahead and got rid of 2 sorceries, like you said. I got rid of Dusk to Dawn. Dusk, 2 and 2 white, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. And then Dawn has Aftermath, so you can cast this from your graveyard. Return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Uh, I love Dust to Dawn, but I feel like this is a specific board wipe that you need to build a specific deck around. You have to have a lot of stuff that's power 2 or less. A lot of our zombies are kind of 2 or less, but not enough to where I wanted to keep this in. So that's why I made that swap for Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, sometimes you like to play your board wipes after you swing. And if you're swinging, you want to get most damage, which means you're probably drawing a bunch of cards to pump up your team, which makes all of your stuff dead. And then,
Yep.
yeah, Supreme Verdict's better.
100% plus. This card can be countered. Supreme Verdict cannot.
True.
And then also got rid of Never Return. So another Aftermath card. So Never destroy target creature or planeswalker. It is 1 and 2 black. This is at sorcery speed, which is unfortunate. And then Return is Aftermath. So exile target card from a graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. It's also at sorcery speed. So I didn't find this card amusing or appealing whatsoever. I do love destroying creatures, but at sorcery speed, it's not that fun. I want more spot removal. I want to be able to do stuff on other people's turns. Also, I feel like if somebody's trying to recur something, it's usually on their turn. So using the return side of this card does make no sense to me. So, I mean, just at sorcery speed, this card's just awful.
Yeah, sorcery speed kind of 4 mana make a 2/2. That rate is pretty terrible. But that looks like for sorceries, I'm seeing 1 instant.
Yeah, so I got rid of 1 instant. It is commence the end game. It is 4 and 2 blue. It can't be countered, which is always fun. But for 6 mana, you can draw 2 cards that amass X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. I don't understand this card. I don't. If you have a huge hand and you're making a zombie army that is just massive, I get it, but you're for what purpose? Just to draw 2 cards?
6 mana, big zombie.
There's so many things you can do to make your zombies bigger for 6 mana, that especially with the cards that I added, that this card is not necessary whatsoever. And to be honest with you, I'm just going to say it. This should probably be the first card you remove from the precon as soon as you pick it up.
Yeah, I don't think it's that good either. All right, that's the end of the non-permanents. Going back to the permanent department, I'm checking out 3 artifacts. Talk to me.
Yeah, so 2 very interesting artifacts they added here. So Gate to the Afterlife, God Pharaoh's Gift. They work seemingly well together. So we'll talk about Gate to the Afterlife first. It's 3 mana. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. Then you may draw a card if you do discard a card, so helping you out with the card draw discard. And then you can pay 2, sack it. You search your graveyard for the other card. It comes onto the battlefield, shuffle your library, and then activate only if there are 6 more creature cards in your graveyard, which shouldn't be hard in this deck. Move on to God Pharaoh's Gift. This is 7 mana, so very expensive, which is kind of nice because the other one helps find this, puts it on the battlefield immediately. This says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, create a token that's a copy of it, because it's a 4/4 black zombie creature. It gains haste until end of turn. Super cool. I love the haste aspect of it, but these 2 cards together just kind of did not really fit in my deck after the upgrades. I like God Pharaoh's Gift, but I want to keep the cards in my graveyard because Scarab God's in this, and obviously you can recur those cards. I just did not really care for this whatsoever. And the last artifact was Maskwood Nexus. Again, I got rid of a bunch of the other cards that weren't zombies already. Didn't really need to keep this in for 4 mana and then have to pay 3 to make the shapeshifter. We got Black Market. I'll just take the 3 life. I'll make the zombie myself.
Yeah, Maskwood is a really weird card in here because this is a very kindred zombie deck, and I feel like, yeah, there are some non-zombies in the deck, but honestly, it's not really needed in this specific deck, so it's weird.
No, I feel like they added it just for the fact that you can pay 3 and make a zombie technically. So again, it's pointless.
Yeah, I get it. Well, let's move on. You got 1 enchantment.
Yeah, the 1 enchantment is Dreadhorde Invasion. 1 and a black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. Cool. Sick. It's such a I love this card, but at the same time, I think it's very stupid. You're essentially not making multiple zombie armies. You're just continuing to put 1+1+1 counter on this. The cool part is if you make a token and it gets to power 6 or greater, it gains lifelink. I just check it immediately.
Yeah, this is one of those trick cards, I feel like. It's cool. You're going to be making a zombie. We're going to be losing life. And then that zombie's going to die, and you're just going to keep losing life. And then you're going to lose life. And then you're going to lose life.
Yep.
But, yeah, let's go ahead. Hey, Steven, you are the king of, hey, I'm taking out more than I add in the land department. I'm seeing the same situation here. What lands are you removing out of this deck?
You're right. I am the king of doing that. I will say this is probably the most lands I've kept in a deck, which is crazy to think about. There are 36 lands after the additions and removals. So pretty solid in my opinion, at least for me. We did add Rafine's Tower, so Arcane Sanctum is gone. I also got rid of Evolving Wilds and then Terramorphic Expanse. I don't really care for the sack lands that come in tapped. This deck already has a bunch of cycling cards that come in tapped already, so I didn't need any more. And then the last 4 cards I got rid of were going to be pretty much all of the Scrylands in here. So Temple of Deceit, Temple of Silence, and then also the bounce land that was added just randomly. Just the 1 bounce land. It was super weird. Which was Orshoff's Basilica. And then I did get rid of 1 of the cycling cards. Obviously, kind of like I mentioned in the earlier part of the video, this deck doesn't really run too much white. So I got rid of Desert of the True, which is the white cycling land.
Yeah, that makes sense. Get rid of the slow lands. Get them gone.
Mm-hmm.
But is that it? Is that going to be your entire $100 upgrade to Eternal Might?
That is all of it, my friend.
All right. I like it. I'm terrified. We got to play against it. As a reminder, you want to stay subscribed to this channel because we're going to be playing up against each other with these decks. But Steven, before we wrap things up, do you have any final thoughts on this deck with Temmet at the helm?
Solid Precon to start the year off, man. I mean, what an insane commander duo. This and the backup commander are just absolutely nuts in my opinion, and I am just in love with it. And I feel honored that I got to be the one to upgrade it.
Well, hey, I am proud of you for upgrading it. It looks very mean, like I said. And yeah, I'm kind of terrified to play against it. We're going to see. One more question for you, Steven, before we end things. You had a price tag of $100 to do this upgrade. What was the final amount of money you spent on all of these additions?
So for the first time in my deck building career, I feel like I've come under budget. So I actually came out about $95.70. Obviously, this is prices before everything starts to drop. So take that into account. Prices might actually go up too, because with zombies being the main proponent of this deck, things could change.
Things go up when it comes to kindred types people like. So I don't doubt that. But yeah, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, so you're staying up to date with everything that's got going on, like I said. And if you wanted to see Hashaton, as a reminder, it's over on our Patreon. Check the link in the description below. Go check it out. Comment down below. Did you guys agree with this upgrade Steven did? Maybe he should have added a card that maybe you like, or maybe there was a card that was removed that you disagreed with. Always interested to hear your guys' opinions in that comment section. In the description, you will also find links to all of our social media accounts. Follow us on those if you haven't done so already, so you're staying up to date with everything else I got going on. And on the screen right now, those are all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your added support. It really does mean the world to us. If you guys wanted to check out what they're seeing, which is not here on YouTube, check the link in the description below and consider subscribing. And a very special shout out to our indestructible tier. That is right, starting with
Daryl Tripp,
Demarion Turner,
Dr. Rome,
Jimmy Ward,
Kevo,
Larry Killian,
Matthew McClendon,
Robert Myatt,
Thrifty PSGR,
Tim K,
Wish Reich,
and Ryder Cole. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. And until the next video, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Goodbye.